The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally. Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the science media cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Thank you for keeping it digital. We are back. It's a heated debate here. We have those that lost power being represented by Mr. Ochieno Joseph. And of course, we have those that captured power from Mr. Joseph Ochieno. And also, in the center, is another person who also wants now to get power from both. Because once she becomes president, indirectly should have also taken your power.
But we did not lose power. We are, for the record, we are the only political party that has ever gone to State House
Twice.
With the mandate of the people. No other has done that.
One. Go there?
And number two, we've through mandate of the people, free, fair, open, competitive, multi-party elections twice. No other party has done that. Now, in terms of what you call losing, the power was grabbed from the peoples of Uganda using NRA and others backed by foreign forces.
Okay.
To stop Ugandans from enjoying the privileges that UPC is doing that. So I hope the future leadership of the likes of Yvonne and others will review some of those things so that they remind their children that the shh that UPC attempted to do
Okay.
was sunk by external forces using local quislings.
Okay, we are going to break this. It's like an exam. But then we can't avoid it. Now to, excuse me, to Mpambara. Committed to building better future by establishing a socio-economic and political order through popular, durable national constituent based on principles. Now this is our interest, and of course, and also our viewers: unity, peace, equality, democracy, freedom, and social justice.
Where
With
does
how
a
you
person
see-
start from?
Okay, with how you see things. Let's begin with peace.
No,
and
first of
unity.
all, I'll begin
Is
with the
Uganda
fact
at
that
peace, and is Uganda united as a country?
I'll begin with the fact that the constitution is an illusion. It has become an illusion because if you look at the current nature of, say, democracy, I don't think Ugandans can pinpoint and tell you that we have a working democracy in Uganda.
See?
We don't have a working democracy in Uganda. It's gimmickal. It's a gimmick. So that is why it's an illusion. So when you talk about peace, when you talk about unity, you talk about equality,
democracy, freedom, and social justice.
I'll start with the first thing that is closest to me, equality. And I'll begin with the first thing. I think even the last time I was here, Norman, there's something I told you among the first reasons why I chose to run. Uganda, at the face of it, fronts equality. But when you look at the deeper understanding of what equality is, I told you that even at the face of what you'd think equality is, like an election, how many women do you see in each cycle of the presidential election?
Yvonne, no one's going to go to Kisoro or Fort and pick and say, hey, come and contest. You are at liberty.
But that's the thing.
What point
That's
are
the
you
thing.
making? No. What point are you making,
No,
Norman?
she's saying how many women
Yeah.
have we, for instance, seen
So
participate
if the
in electoral-
country is...
Can I help you
if-
before
if-
she continues, if
Yeah,
you don't
sure.
mind?
Yeah.
No, this is very important. Yvonne is saying that after 40 years, there should be enabling environment in which more women are able to emerge. More women will emerge when the structural systems in place to provide them with basic education,
affirmative action. is
functioning
in place.
education. No,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll leave it.
I think we're going to go into...
I'm trying to guide the debate, Mr. Awich and Yvonne, so that we don't look like we are closing our eyes towards what is already in existence.
We are opening your eyes and
No, we're opening your eyes.
Which is
So-
in existence. So we have a
so if there's
affirmative
no-
action. Yeah,
and in fact, we're not even, I'm not even a witch, so you open your eyes more.
If the enabling environment is not conducive for equality to thrive, it can't thrive. And it will go the same thing for young people. It becomes difficult to say that a young person can ably compete in a presidential election. There are so many things that hinder them. The resources, we've been struggling.
Yeah.
The resources, because it's highly monetized, and that level of monetization is for people that have reached a certain advanced age because they've monopolized certain resources. So, at the face of it, it's not that it's not functional. It's not functional. You talk about affirmative action that is also supposed to be functional. Yes, it has done bits of what it's supposed to do. Uganda can boast of that it was among the first countries in Africa to push something like affirmative action that gained some ground. But then again, we've reached a stage of NRM rule where we don't think the environment is still conducive for that. Because even on top of your affirmative action, you are telling every young girl that they can go to UPE and go to school, but you're forgetting all these other structural barriers that are making it hard for them to actually ably compete. They can't be in school because menstrual poverty. Most of them still have to go and sit in soil and something like that to menstruate. So is that affirmative action that works? So equality at its very essence is not working.
Answer the bit he has had you on whether or not affirmative action, of course, which is also part of
That
the
is a deeper conversation. That is a deeper conversation for another time. But at the face of it, we don't think that equality is working the way it's supposed to work because the environment that should be conducive for it to work is not, the environment is not conducive. It's not conducive for young people to ably compete. unable to live meaningful lives in Uganda. They are frustrated, not just socially, economically. They are not employed. So there's that. Secondly, I think the peace issue, the peace part of it, we talked about it earlier with the security. For unity, we have to be very honest, because I feel also the incumbent government has made it very intentional to divide Uganda so they rule better. They rule better. In terms of tribes, in terms of the nature of division of districts, I think if we start looking at that, and earlier today I was listening to a conversation on the original shapers of the constitution, and also those who had shaped the fact that Uganda should be divided into more smaller districts so that it's easier for resources to penetrate into majority of districts. And they were saying, we regret why it's a thought that we pushed, that kind of decentralization of power failed to work, because the actual government that was in place was not seeing it as a structure to actually unite people, or as a structure that would actually enable the proper distribution of resources all the way to the levels at district level. It became more of a structure to maintain power, because it's easier to control those small units than united regional fronts and blocks. So when you look at unity, what's the smallest enabler that you can look at and say, maybe from the smallest level, we can say we have unity in Uganda, but how is it performing? How is it functioning? Is it functional? What's unity like in Uganda? Uganda were mostly united when it comes to the opposition side of politics. That's when we become united, because we all have the same challenges. We all have the same challenges with the ruling government. We all have the same challenges that have come out of the 40 years of the dictatorship.
You don't see any bit of unity in this country?
Ugandans unite over football. I mean, maybe that's what I can tell you. They unite over football. I mean, because they're happy people, you naturally can't break their souls to that level. But they'll go back the next day and unite over the challenges that they have. That is the only unit I can talk about. But in terms of...
Let's proceed to Mr. Otieno. Of course, the same question. We're talking about unity, we're talking about peace, we're talking about democracy, freedom, social justice, and progress. I think let me give you the progress bit. Vis-a-vis back in the day when UPC was in charge, how would you compare the current progress and back in the day?
If you're talking in economic terms,
yeah, sure.
Then you're really putting NRA in trouble. Because if you're talking progress versus development, of course we've progressed. We've progressed to the extent that the railway networks that we had don't exist. That is progress. We've moved ahead because now we are a motorbike economy. Of course, that's progress. It's progress because we now have many more television networks, thanks to the Americans who invested in space technology and led to a proliferation of our technologies, hence we're here. So now I can also listen to news on my mobile phone. That's progress. Is it progress associated with the NRA? No. Progress. Uganda now has got cars choked. This morning, I was going for a meeting and I was late by exactly 1 hour. Why? Because I was stuck here in a car traffic by more than 1 hour, stuck in one location because of traffic. They call NRA guys call that progress because there are many cars.
Yeah, there's so many vehicles. People, I mean,
of course, because poverty has moved into the villages, and now every other Tom, Dick, and Harry has moved to Kampala, so the population has bound. No public housing construction. All the buildings that UPC built from Bugolobi to Nakawa to Ntinda, all around the country, public sector houses, they've been sold to dubious people. Some of the streets which had public accommodated houses are now studios for people, including dubious Chinese investors. That is progress, of course. But part of the other progress is that, as I said, there are no public service buses, but the vehicles and border borders on the same roads that UPC built predominantly, generally, anyway, and some of which we claimed from the colonialists. If progress is Kampala being the most polluted capital city in the world, which is what we're enjoying, call it progress. If progress is one in which, if you're looking for generals, you will go ahead and concentrate them within one sub-county. There was once upon a time, until 10 years ago, you would confine it to a few families. Fine, if that is progress. But if it's progress because we're now living in diversity, in which people who've been chased from Tanzania now go ahead and dubiously own land or control land in northern Uganda, and they're fully armed, that is progress. We never saw those things. If that is what progress you call, fine. But if progress is because we now have 84 ministers, some of whose names you do not know, that is progress. And if progress is part of the fact that no child can come from my St. Joseph's Primary School in Nagongera and get the grades to take them to Namagunga. St. Joseph, in fact, Nagongera Girls does relatively well. The neighboring girls' schools continued convent school. So it's possibly possible one will go down there. But the neighboring school, which is the twin school, my boys' school, Z, is that the progress we talk about? No, the progress has been shambolic danger. But then if you go ahead and say, NRA, what have they built? What was the other point again, the first one?
There was, of course, unity,
Unity.
peace, equality, democracy.
This country has never been disunited since independence, except at a particular time of Idi Amin, when he retreated power to a few people from Kakwa whom he could trust, the kind of thing that's happening to Museveni, where Museveni right now is not even sure about what happenings in his bedroom. He says it publicly, and we're saying it respectfully, and then to a few Muslims. So meaning that his own intelligence services could not trust many other people. This country has never been more divided. And I told you that, you guys, I am privileged that I started private school the early part of Idi Amin's regime. I moved around the country. I moved around, came to Kabbalah and Katuna in my A-levels. So I've seen this country go around. As I said, I always praise that Munyankole man who gave me a lift in Barara when the trailer in which I was traveling as a student broke down, and he gave me the privilege of making sure that I sat in front with him, plus a woman who had a baby in front, and then the rest sit behind the truck. Why? Because I was a young Ugandan student. I looked different, but a student, I looked different, young, vulnerable. And when we reached Mbarara, that guy gave me 20 shillings to continue where? To Kabale. Z today. This country is fundamentally broken. It's broken to the extent that in some organizations, critical organizations, there is one language spoken. It's been made public. Is that unity?
Okay, that's Mr. Joseph Ochieno, and I don't want to use it as a disclaimer. The views you
it's
have
a fact.
Had, the views you have had here, they are purely for Pambara and Ochieno. But nonetheless, I want to ask our viewers out there to call in live on our studio numbers 0700 999 054. It is 0700 999 054, and the other number is 07911 46 76 2. Briefly, I want to okay, the same questions. I will, because we're trying to highlight the preamble. It's enough. It tells us. It summarizes why this document was made.
The
bribe.
That preamble was actually a bribe to Uganda.
So this preamble, and of course, I want to ask the four of us. Before we close, we shall definitely touch the amendments on whether or not they were justifiable, because so many people have cried loud that even when the constitution was in courts legally amended, beginning with the second amendment, I think, where it is on record that 5 million was issued to parliamentarians of 2005.
The criminal bribe. Actually, that was a criminal bribe.
So, but we shall reach there. Honorable Awich, if I may highlight about the unity, peace, equality, democracy, to mention, of course, freedom and social justice. What is your take?
Yes, I'll give that bullet by bullet. But as you said, when we came here, the question was if this constitution has lived
Yeah, the expectations
to the
of-
extent of time.
Yeah.
Now, to me, it has one. What does it mean to live to the test of time? Literally, it is the achievements or what good it has done. So I'm saying it has lived to the test of time, first of all, for its dynamicity, because it is what is criticized. We live in a dynamic world, and you cannot have a law without a provision for amendment. The society would break. When you pass a law, you think it is so good, but when you put it to the test, you find challenges, and that's why you have to amend, and that is similar to the Constitution. So the Constitution has lived to its dynamicity. It has been a living document. It has been growing. This Constitution has also kept the country together. Colleagues, since this Constitution came in place, many countries have died. Many countries have died. Yugoslavia died. Somalia died. Sudan died or broke into two. Libya is dying. Many countries have stopped to exist, and others have broken into pieces, but we have lived.
A second, if I may chip in, and of course for clarity, you see, however, which when you mention that some countries have died, and I want to highlight Libya itself. It died after 42 years of Gaddafi's reign. What guarantee do you have that you may not, in quotes, kill this country? Who knows, in the next 2 years?
Definitely, me and you know you can't guarantee future. That is why in English they say, don't use the word never. Then you ask yourself, why was it invented? If the word never was not to be used, why was it invented? Why does English said you never use the word never? It's because you can't tell the future. Even United States can break.
Does that mean that at some
point, when you ask me about the future, and for me to certain you about future, it's difficult, because that is why the NRM will keep advocating for patriotism in a particular ideological level to protect the future. Okay. Two, I hope Madam President knows that states have died. Yugoslavia died after Tito, broke into pieces to the extent that at one time in a World Cup, there was one piece called Serbia and Montenegro. They went for World Cup, they qualified to quarterfinal. When they reached quarterfinal, they broke again at home. Serbia became a republic, Montenegro became a republic. So now if you win the tournament, where will you take the trophy? Uganda'S remain, courtesy of this constitution. It has also kept us at international repute. Internationally, we are seen, we are known as a sovereign, a united country, and we are there. This same constitution has given birth to laws. You know, a constitution gives birth to laws. For example, if you have Article 291, which provides, for example, for National Security Council, the constitution will also say Parliament will provide laws to operationalize. So the grand norm, those provisions are operationalized by an act of Parliament. So we have many laws that is governing the country, a birth of this constitution. We have also had jurisprudence. It has been tested in the Supreme Court. It has been used in Constitutional Court. This constitution has developed and enriched a jurisprudence and making the country more justiciable.
If I may, if I may ask briefly about the jurisprudence, and there are some circumstances where you feel that even the jurisprudence is being abused, that even when you are talking about the test of time, the Supreme Court and the rest, that courts have mentioned and or guided. I want to be specific with the presidential elections petitions, of course, of 2006 to 2016, where the Supreme Court has even given its guidance and said, for this country to have free and fair elections, in their view, A, B, C, and Z ought to be done, and the government for which you serve has had its eyes wide shut toward such proposals.
Many proposals given by court have been executed. Many have been done, but the ones which have not been done are purely possibly delay or logistical and financial. Remember, if you have to do it, you do it by passing the law. The law requires that for an act of Parliament to be passed, it must have financial certificate of financial. So sometimes the money has not been found and it has been delayed, but there's no intentional breach or bypassing court decisions. Now, the other thing is, this constitution has led to economic development. That would be a debate for another day. But I want to say that when you have bad laws, the economy stagnates. it stagnates the economy. And the test of good laws is seen in the development of the economy. Finally, we may not mention all. This constitution has led to, it provided and led to the protection of human rights. Human rights is a cornerstone in this one. Article 41 of the constitution, for example, Article 41 of the constitution provides for areas you can't touch, never, under no circumstance should you touch. And those are freedom from torture, and that is why the law to Enforcement Act was given, because some people wanted to continue torturing. Government had to pass a law to make personal liable. So freedom from torture, freedom from slavery. Not even Museveni has power to say Okello is my slave or Kurut is my slave. Right to habeas corpus. We have seen court ordering and people have been brought. And finally, what are those cancelled? Freedom from torture, right to habeas corpus. Hear him, a right to be heard. Hear him. That is why you have seen courts throwing out matters in court, because the other party is not heard. So we have had that entrenched in Article 41 as a Bill of Rights. Therefore, this constitution, remember freedom from torture in the past. Courts of law had the power. If Okello was caught stealing chicken, the courts could order 10 canes, and they would bring this askari, local askari of local government, we call it Ogwangweno, in our area. The Ogwangweno would come and administer kiboko in court. Right now, no more. You can't. Even the Supreme Court cannot order anybody to be beaten. So, this constitution has argumented and developed human rights. Now, to your question on equality. Equality, you know, I was looking at my colleagues talk of equality and this and that and that. How I wish they had said the equality concept is derived from equality on what? Equality before what? It is equality before the law. It is not hanging just equality. It's not like we are going to win a market and we are equal. Please, when the Constitution of talks of equality, it is in full saying equality before the law. Therefore, we have known that right now you can sue anybody and the court will hear you as equals. And is
that practical?
Yes. Let somebody grab your land in Makini tomorrow. Whether you say yes, yes. Me, I have had situations even where state officials who have come into conflict with others on a civil matter or even on a criminal matter, where they have told them, go and settle this out of court. Why? Because he's fearing that the law would get up to him. So equality before law is there. The courts of law have taken us equal in civil matters, whether land matters or divorce cases. We have all been equal before the law. So that is the equality we are talking about. Unity. We are definitely united as a country. And that's why I was saying that in this past, when the Constitution held us together, we are as one country. Possibly we are the only, in fact, we should celebrate our diversity in unity. Colleagues, in Europe, there are countries of 37,000. And because they speak a little different language, it is a republic. Liechtenstein is 37,000 people. Andorra, some countries are 5,000. You find a republic. Macedonia, because you speak different languages. You can't imagine that under the constitution of Uganda, you could say broadly we are 56 tribes. But we're looking together. We have one football team. We're here, nearly all of us here have different tribes. If you look at us here, all of us different tribes. And we have been moving. No government delegation is without many tribes. That's why when we go outside Uganda, you find government delegations speaking English. Yes, you find government delegations speaking English. And they said Ugandans love English. I always tell them how I wish we don't have a language to communicate. But they see a Ugandan delegation speaking English. Oh, these people like English. They know English. How I wish they know in that delegation there's a Choli, there's a Mnyanko, there's a Muganda, there's a Muteso. And that is it. So we have lived to unity. We have lived to unity.
Oh, gosh.
For example, now, finally, on this, many of my colleagues have argued erroneously, very erroneously. They have argued very erroneously, including the congressman, that things that appear as technological development, like FM stations, should not be tagged in any way to NRM achievements. Far from the truth. I can assure you, if you listen to Chaka Chaka's song, I'm in love with the DJ, at that time, there were FM stations in South Africa. They were not here. because of government policy.
Apartheid South Africa.
There was already FM stations in many countries. How comes that technology was not here? Are you telling me because technology?
Apartheid South Africa.
Are you telling me because of FM stations? You have FM in Eritrea. You have it in North Korea. You have it in what? In China. Even WhatsApp here is not in China.
So those are your comparisons.
So what I'm saying is technology needs to be governed by positive government policies. It's not that it is there in the air and by command it is in Uganda or by command it is in Rwanda. It is supported and accomplished by a good government policy. Otherwise, you can have these technologies next door and you don't have it here.
I think I totally agree with you. To the extent that Uganda government
agreeing with me.
To the
Always keep agreeing.
To the extent that Uganda government decides, To the extent that Uganda government decides to sell our telecommunications company and give it to dubious Boer South African companies. To the extent that this guys go ahead and break our communications system of electricity.
The topic is it true that where there's technology, it is universal? Or it is true that even where there's technology, it needs a government positive policy?
Okay. Okay, the communist has come, has returned. You see, you have to agree with him because that's what he has asked.
No, I'm going to agree.
He says he agrees with me. Okay. I'm just asking if you should continue to agree with me.
I agree with Comrade that he's got a job to do.
Before you know which Chaka Chaka was in love with a DJ.
Let me say this. If you hear songs, we shouldn't take it for granted. For example, me, I want under a research of NRM, a research desk, to even listen to songs in the country. Because songs reflect the aspirations, the suffering, and what the people do. You may not necessarily go and start doing intelligence. Just listen to what people are saying.
As a matter of interest, Comrade Rich, I followed Yvonne Chaka Chaka, plus many of the South African music. As a matter of interest, I was actually then an active liberator for the liberations of Southern Africa. So Comrade Rich, to an extent, is right. But that said, the manner in which NRA broke our liberation struggles by invading and conquering Congo, invading and conquering Rwanda, invading and conquering Sudan, and invading Somalia on behalf of Anglo-America. If I look at the Ugandan progressive nationalist political organization and I look at really the constitution as a supposed emancipator of our peoples, then I think it's an absolutely contradictory to the independence for which the constitution was designed.
When Chaka Chaka is singing about that song, he's talking of a FM stations, a DJ who is playing. And you said in Uganda we could. Remember at that time Uganda thought that if you reach a radio station and held a microphone, you have taken over power. So it was just that. And yet
Chaka Chaka, very example, then why is Bobby Wine as suffocated as he is?
Briefly, and then I question them.
So I'm saying that FM stations existed. FM stations existed all over the world. But here, because of government policy, which wanted to monopolize, there was no FM station. Radio Uganda had FM station. Only Radio Uganda. Radio Uganda had an FM department. That is all. But you couldn't put one in Umbara, one in Kivu, one in Agulu. No. It only comes due to good, positive government policy.
I want to thank Julio Josh. He's watching us from Remiyaga. But now, it's not our practice as Alternative Digitalk to simply highlight problems without highlighting also the solutions. But before we reach onto the solutions, I want to ask across to Mpambara and find out from her on whether or not some of the most historical amendments were justifiable. And want to begin with Article 105 when it was amended in 2005 to shed away the term limits. Proceed from there.
Are they justifiable?
Yeah. Are they justifiable? And or if they aren't, what makes you believe that they were unjustifiable?
That particular article you've given, I'll begin from the beginning. I had earlier said that this constitution in its form, perfect as a document as it is, implementation completely different story, has become an illusion for majority of Ugandans. Reasons why? The power that we assume we have is not in our hands. It's in the hands of someone else. It's a person we don't want to mention. It's in the hands of someone else. It's in the hands of the ruling president. He has consolidated power to himself. So when we now talk about Article 105, the article that got me arrested in 2016, a fresh university student who had just graduated and heard that the constitution was going to be amended.
You were disturbing the peace
that were disturbing the for going to the streets to complain that it should not be so easy to pull the trust of people away from them like that. For you to go and just change the constitution because it's your will to rule for as long as you want. People were betrayed. Ugandans were betrayed. It's not justifiable because we had a social contract with our leaders, with our governance, that the constitution we're putting in place is a guiding document for all of us to live together in harmony as a people.
But Honorable Witch mentions that any living document, a constitution ought to be a living document, subject to amendment, and wouldn't you as a lawyer also consider that like, okay, it's a living document?
It's not justifiable because it's not in service of people. Which Ugandans agreed to its amendment?
Our MPs who represent us.
I mean, if we go down that lane, we're not going to pull out of that hole. Ugandans did not agree to it because they were betrayed. There was a constitution they agreed to and said, we are willing to have this contract, this social contract between ourselves and our leaders, if it abides by us, the people. If it speaks to our unity, if it speaks to our governance, if it speaks to our leadership, to good democracy, we abide by it. But you pick your personal interests as a leader and say, listen, I'm growing old. So to that effect, I'm going to change it because that is what, at the moment, you feel speaks to you, speaks to your consolidation of power. You have betrayed the people. It's not justifiable. That constitution, when the 1995 constitution was drafted, the world said it was one of the best in terms of consultations, in terms of involvement of the people. So how come at that particular stage, Ugandans did not contribute to that consultation for it to be amended to allow the president to rule for life? If we had allowed him, why are we fighting now?
Maybe it's a selected few of you.
We're not a selected few. We're not a selected few.
Him because Honorable Witch is very comfortable with whatever that.
If we go back to the beginning of this conversation, if we go back to it was not justifiable. The amendment of the Constitution to the regard of Article 105 was not it was not justifiable. It was a betrayal to the Ugandans. It was a betrayal to the Ugandan people. They did not consent to it.
102, about the age limit?
Same thing.
But
they removed term limits, they removed age limits.
See, Yvonne, is the problem with the age? Because we have seen countries led by, old people, and they are progressing. Is the question with the age?
The question shouldn't be about the age.
Because
the question should be about performance.
Even when Mr. Museveni leaves, most likely there is going to be another president.
No. You're assuming our issue is with the president's age?
Yeah, because when you mention that there's no justification for amending Article 102.
He combined the removal of age and term limits at the same time. That was an intentional move. It wasn't in isolation. Our issue is not with him being 80. It's not with him being 75. That's not the issue. We have seen the same president for the past 40 years. And we've constantly said, according to how we are feeling as Ugandans, things are not working. So what's the way forward? If the solution for Uganda to move forward is something else, why are you reinstating yourself as a president to rule for life, yet you know that under your leadership, the country is not running well?
Okay.
It's not justifiable.
Let's cross to the congressman, like Honorable, which refers him to.
Yes, I was just considering this, and then I thought I would put for the record that a fantastic Ugandan lawyer of Makerere breed and of international repute, and who went within the valleys of Uganda People's Congress to campaign for the defense of women and other people, very progressive by the progressive left, all the way including in the Philippines, returned to London, and because of the obnoxious nature of Article 269 of the NRA at the time, repealed in 2005, resolved that he would never return to Uganda under particular circumstances. Now that Uganda is a man from Dokolo, that district that bore Cecile Ogwal, John Okello. Unfortunately, he passed on 2 days ago in London, and I'm very saddened by it. He was a massive activist. Yvonne, you'll need to get to know about him, and very much down there in social media. He could sometimes be massively robust with his language when it comes to issues of the Republic of Uganda and our politics. And sometimes we really taunt people, including in UPC. Obviously, as head of the party in London for a long time, I knew him. So this is just the other day. And it can tell you how this question of constitutionalism has mistreated Ugandans. These are guys who were in the university before my time. And again, I want to repeat, very robust about the question of democracy and human rights, and was human rights lawyer amongst all, and particularly, as I said, massively, progressively gender-driven, George Chua Okello. Now, come the amendment of Article 269, which as presented, so-called repealed, we had to go to court. I was one of the net in fact, I was the head of the external wing, Comrade of campaigning against NRA's continued dictatorship and the fact that political parties had been banned. I led that a campaign with the global powers and global communities until it became completely unsustainable in 2004, and that Museveni's friends told him, and of course, thankfully, the Constitutional Court on November the 17th, 2004, found it in a judgment that we started with from 1989. So these guys can talk about democracy, whatever. These guys are intransigent, terrible guys. So from 1989, when we first challenged these guys under their own crude dictatorship thing, but it took us up to 2004, November, for the Constitutional Court to find that Article 269 was inconsistent with was their own so-called NRA constitution, and that it should be repealed because it was they found it as null and void. So, interestingly, although this thing was eventually repealed following that wasted referendum in July 2005, it was quite clearly as part of our campaigns, and these guys had to concede, and it was court that ruled. So the regime had nothing to do but to do the formalities of the referendum to go in line with the constitution. Granted, they're doing that. My argument, in fact, I led that campaign that there was no need for us to do the referendum because we were wasting public resources. So, that said, where do we go from here? Yvonne, the age and term limits apparently were sneaked in, just like the 269, the ban on political parties. No gathering in White Horse Inn in Kabale or in Nyabushozi or anywhere across the country did people gather under a tree and say, ban political parties, insert that. They did the age limit apparently to block Obote. They thought Obote, once he hit 75, was around 70, he would not. And the so-called framers of this constitution, they'll concede in normal times that they did that. Likewise with age, and this, with terms, that because Obote had already been down there, it would mean that he would not qualify. But for the record, Obote, his permanent spokesperson, he was never interested in returning to power, and so he wasn't. And for the record, again, Comrade Awich, had the imperialist forces not used Idi Amin to overthrow Obote's government in 1971, he would not have reached 1980, in government, because he was going to let go to younger guys, some of whom my sister here knows some of the names, as presented. In 1985, UPC was going to win the elections, Obote was going to win the elections. But in 1990, Obote was not going to go beyond 1990. And I'm making an important point. Obote in 1976-75, of a lunch with Julius Nyerere and their wives, including Mama Mira, the fantastic mother of this nation, first introduced the thing to Nyerere that, look, we need to retire when you're still popular. That's Milton Obote. Unfortunately for him, the records that you people have is a very negative record. So this guy was not really for staying in power. So then come to this age and term limit in the state in which it was, although it was targeted and aimed at Milton Obote. I think, Comrade Awich, today, if term limits were there, it possibly sometimes will not matter because you have an understanding that even if this guy goes at 73, 45, whatever, you know, the limitations will check. It's a clear lacuna, you know, seeking to check an issue. The age thing, actually, interestingly, I'll say it for the record, I haven't really been madly mad about age limits, generally per se. But rather, if you look at a guy who comes from the bush, who imposes himself on the people and rules you for 40 years, and he's struggling to live, and he's still continuing at 80 plus, and George Okello used to say that this guy's age is, the George Okello was actually passed, by the way, that he believes that Museveni's age is far above whatever it is, you know, kind of stuff, and he's pushing. And this very same man is in a very cheeky way refusing to recognize that there is Comrade Awich who could be our next commander-in-chief, or indeed a fantastic Comrade Norman, but most importantly, a fantastically beautiful Yvonne Pambara, you know, close to Rushoroza of Ankole, or rather of Kigezi, that she could be our next president. But no, it's a formula fair kind of stuff, because there's a public conversation we should be able to have. No, I think it becomes crudely obnoxious.
Okay. Our viewers, we have a few minutes to let this debate go, but I want to come to Honorable Wich Pola, and they are the custodians of this living document. A strict question: why is it that every when there is a very contested amendment, you dish out money? Let's mention the term limits. 5 million is on record. Let us give it some years later. Age limit, some money is on record. And by the way, the envelopes did not come alone. They came with chibokos.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Indeed.
Yeah, maybe I will not have another time to speak. So
No,
just
I
sit
think
on.
you will, because I want to. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I am saying that one is that the introduction of the two provisions were legitimate and justified. It was from the historical perspective at the time of the drafting that because of our history, the drafters at that time thought that you would have to practically restrict somebody staying on
More
power
than 2 times.
so that we could have regular change of leadership. That was the thinking. And it was okay, it was fine, it was beautiful. But as I said, later on circumstances change. As I said, the Constitution is a living document that people had to change. Now this takes me to Madam President's question, that it was not justifiable and the people were not involved. So my reply to there is one. What is the degree of justifiability? Do you justify it in just viagram, just viameter? Because it is such an abstract.
She's not from. She's apparently of Namagunga.
So
and guys, the case which was Mwiri. So your language
that is
there.
really very abstract. Secondly, you are saying Ugandans did it.
Oh, gosh.
So I was wondering, where would Ugandans have met? In Kololo airstrip, in Nakasongola, somewhere in a big grazing ground? Where would Ugandans meet to say, we Ugandans have decided? We all know in democratic governance that the people delegate their authority to their leaders, in this case members of parliament. And if the members of parliament who were duly elected and given that mandate to do it, and they did it, how then do you turn around and say Ugandans didn't have a say? It is not justifiable. As if there was a certain amount of degree of justifiability which this justification fell short, or that there was a venue like in Kalangala where all Ugandans were supposed to meet, and Ugandans say, we have met, we have decided. But if we know that in democratic governance, because we cannot all go and meet there. And that is why Parliament is called a National Assembly. It is an assembly of the nation. Only that not all the 45 people cannot be in this assembly. That's why this National Assembly has representatives. and they were given what to do in the National Assembly. Ideally, a National Assembly, assembly of the nation, like you'd have assembly in Namagonga. That assembly of Namagonga would take everybody. Now, if you talk of a National Assembly, where would we get 45 million people to sit in that assembly? So I feel like you really, we should mean what we say and say what we mean.
I have this for you, Honorable Awich. Let us all assume that all that you are mentioning is correct. Of course, it is true, you cannot convene all the million Ugandans to pass a law or amend the constitution.
But Madam President said Uganda.
Yeah, I get it. No, this is it now. Why then would the government you serve have to first give 5 million each?
I was coming to that. I was coming to that.
And yet you say, okay, proceed and you say your closing remarks and then you close to the
first
rest.
of all, many of the amendments came at certain specific activities for the members of parliament. Either it was a time they're supposed to go for consultation, or it was a time where they had some challenges. So this has come
As
a time and again, on all coincidence. And for us as a party, we are trying to say that those coincidences could be reduced because it leads to a misinterpretation of the circumstances. So in brief, therefore, the giving of the money has always happened. My closing remark is on Madam President, that indeed you're a young, beautiful, intelligent lady, presumably of sound mind. Yeah, you know, Madam, you know, when somebody swears an affidavit that I'm of sound mind, always the part of there too is paragraph 3 is not within my knowledge. Because if it turns out that it is the opposite, I would have considered. So what I'm saying is, you have all it takes. But what happens and what NRM believes is that Article 1 of the Constitution is supreme. Power belongs to the people. So if the power people so decide you, I would really be happy for you. But then we have to go to the people, and I will be talking for my presidential candidate. I guess your people will be talking for you. So let the people decide. And when the people decide you, it's fine. If it decide my candidate, please be fine with it also.
Okay, we have 5 minutes to close, but I want to ask a specific question to both of you. If there was room for amendment, what do you consider is worth amending?
If there was room for amendment.
By the way, term limit was brought back.
Yeah.
So don't talk of amendment, term limit.
Yeah, it is back in the new amendment.
Term limit is back. So you just talk about age
Just term limit.
because term limit.
I mean, they should go together the same way they were amended before. They should have been brought together. In terms of what I feel would, I mean, you've already mentioned it. It's largely about age and term limits. But since they brought term limits,
so the rest
I
of
guess
the
they are planning for something that we are not yet aware of.
Is okay, in your view?
It's okay, but it's an illusion. We'll go back to Article 1.
Power belonging to people.
Power belonging to people. Does it belong to us? If you went on the street and asked a Ugandan that who does power belong to in this country, what would they tell you? Would they tell you it belongs to the people?
Yes.
They will tell you it belongs to the president
answering
and the army. They will tell you it belongs to the gun.
Have you had ask him again? Kindly ask him.
He will tell you that. He will tell you that he has to defend his people. But from the first test of, if you ask Ugandans who does power belong to and who do they see power belonging to, who do they feel power belonging to, they would not tell you that it belongs to the people. And that indicates a very big problem. It indicates that the constitution has largely been used to dominate and consolidate power that is very far from the reach of Ugandans. And we have to be honest. We have to be honest about the shortfalls of that constitution so that in the next coming leadership or the alternative leadership that we're thinking about for this country, we are able to now start solving such issues, because that's what the constitution is supposed to do. It's meant to bring all those issues together, find solutions, learn lessons from the previous problems of what we've gotten from the previous governance and etc., and bring solutions for a forward nation. So I feel it's not even the issue of an amendment. The entire structure needs an overhaul.
For emphasis, if you were president, you would consider having a new constitution for the Republic of Uganda?
I would consider it. There's a lot to change that would be different. Some might upset my visitors today,
No, he's
He's not the only one. Even Joseph might upset him because I have a particular change about political parties that I've complained about for a very long time.
mention it for purposes of our viewers.
So political
In a
parties
minute, and then
have
shall
become
proceed.
largely a shadow of what the ruling government is. The difference between how they're all conducting themselves is not there.
Is that
And
the
we
reason
feel,
for which you are
we feel as a generation
aspiring
that is
as an
upcoming,
independent?
definitely, because I don't want to carry the baggage of what has come from these people, the baggage of the political culture that we've had for all these years. It's either we see alternatives that work for everyone and political parties that work for people, rather than political parties that are putting themselves there to same thing, stay in power and for their survival rather than the Ugandans. We have to think twice about everything.
So what would you do?
If we talk about change, I will give political parties a break until they can put their house back in order.
Go back to
You see, you have opened now a very
Yes, I will give you a break because unless you're performing for people, why are you there?
We go back to
the
NRM.
movement, the movement
No,
system.
no, because even you won't exist.
You see, Pambara, you are creating trouble. You had a very wonderful ally, but that statement alone.
That's why I said it might upset both my guests.
No, that is good for us because the
because
constitution
they don't believe in political parties.
but even you
You
will
see,
not-
he's smiling. This
the
is smiling.
constitution provides.
But he's also part of a party
the
structure. He will not be
No,
there.
there's not a party.
The
It's a
constitution provides
monolithic-
that there are two systems,
Yeah.
multi-party
No.
system and movement. But when one is in place, the other one
No.
is in abeyance.
No. It's
So right
only-
now we have
No,
multi-party in
no,
place,
no.
movement is abeyance. So you want to bring it back? Perfect. Good.
Oh,
Yes.
Your closing remarks will cross
No,
to,
no, please give her the 1 minute. She wanted to say something. What did you say?
proceed. You will put them to order. You put them. You
I
will
will put
hold
them to order.
and
But
ask
I
them
know
first-
where he's trying to allude to the movement system.
Because that's what the constitution provides now.
No.
That
No,
the
no,
constitution
no,
says-
no.
That aspect is
You're
good.
not
That
going
aspect
to
should
lie
be
to
deleted.
Ugandans, by
Yeah.
the way. You're
Proceed,
not going to lie to
Pambana.
Uganda. We understand how the structures work.
Proceed.
No, let me say it for avoidance of that. The constitution, which article? Constitution provides, check for me,
I'm looking
which
for-
says that there should be a political, a multi-party system, a movement party, a movement system, and any other democratic.
No.
So if your
therefore-
movement system is also still shadowing what NRM has
So
been
what
doing, you
happens-
also not
Because
have a
They're the
purpose.
same. They're the same.
You also don't have a purpose.
So what happens is, if a multi-party is in place, the law says the other one is in abeyance. So now the movement is
Please
in
note that
abeyance.
that constitution will change. It's not also going to talk about your
this is what
movement
is very,
system.
it's very interesting. And
What
that's-
does it say?
and this article, it's Article 80, sub-article 4.
Under political system.
Yeah, this is in particular about the right to recall. It still recognizes that this shall only apply.
Right to do what?
To recall.
Come on, what?
to recall
You see these guys with their documents.
So, proceed a minute, please. We cross to Mr. Ocheno, and then we shall leave here because this is very, very. It's a rich discussion that we may not.
It
conclude
is
now.
one of the.
No, I wanted her first conclude in a
sure.
minute, and then kindly we use. Oh, we even past time. Like 40 seconds. Cross and say have your closing remarks.
So in terms of meeting the expectations of people, we need to be very honest that Ugandans are not satisfied with how the constitution is being implemented. I'll talk largely about its implementation because as a document, it appears perfect. But its implementation is something completely different.
Okay.
Yeah, just to conclude, but in context,
For
that
seconds.
the 1966 so-called constitution for you lawyers, it was actually merely an interim constitution that was responding to the mess created by the founders of the 1966 crisis, which were really by and large.
I
The
think,
Buganda.
maybe in a second, Mr. Ocheno.
Yes.
That's why, for some reason, I think some scholars have confused Ugandans for having had 4 constitutions because the 1966 is the one that was approved.
That's
in
correct.
1967.
Indeed.
So they consider us having had.
And by the
constitutions.
way, if they're constitutional lawyers and lecturers, I'm available to go and give public lectures at all universities and at all law schools because I've met very senior lawyers and I find them very unfortunately served short by the historical context of this.
Conclusive
So
in 40
yes,
seconds.
so it was purely really as an emergency measure to deal with the question of the special status of Buganda, semi-federal status which Buganda enjoyed at the time, and then which basically re-centralizing power by abolishing the office of the the prime minister, and then creating one unitary system, considering the fact that the king had basically left. That was basically how it is.
Okay.
Going forward, this constitution is an NRA constitution. It should go with the NRA. I think very urgently we can pick provisions from that constitution. Some of them are there, Bill of Rights and things like that, and then review the early constitution, particularly the independence constitution, and then we're able to re-emerge with the national constitution that really caters for all the citizens of this country.
Okay, our viewers, Norman Tumuhimbise considers to sign out. We shall catch you some other time. Stay blessed.
Have you taken photos? You take and give it to me.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.